I always thought our life was simple but perfect. Sure, Claire and I weren't exactly alike. She's all about spontaneity and big dreams, while I prefer stability and careful planning. But somehow, we made it work. For nearly 20 years, we built a life together in this cozy little house in upstate New York. The kind of place where kids ride bikes down tree-lined streets and neighbors wave hello from their porches. But lately, something felt off. It started small. A few late-night phone calls she didn't want me to hear. Trips to meetings that seemed to stretch longer than they should. And then there were the bills, or rather, the lack of them. We'd been saving for retirement since before Emily was born, and suddenly I noticed our account balance wasn't what it used to be. At first, I chalked it up to my own paranoia. After all, Claire had never given me reason to doubt her. Not really. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Claire has always been good at making everything seem okay, even when it's not. She walks into a room like she owns it, radiating confidence and charm. That night, as she poured herself a glass of red wine, I almost believed nothing was amiss. Almost. "So," she said, leaning against the kitchen counter with that smile of hers, the one that could disarm anyone. "How was your day?" "Fine," I replied, trying to keep my tone casual. "Yours?" "Oh, busy." She shrugged, sipping her wine. "Just chasing dreams, I guess." Chasing dreams? What did that even mean? I wanted to ask, but part of me didn't want to know. Instead, I watched her carefully, searching for cracks in her facade. There were none. Not yet. Later, as I sat in my study going over our finances, I realized just how much money was missing. Thousands gone without explanation. My stomach churned. Was this some kind of mistake? Or was Claire hiding something bigger than I dared imagine? The confrontation happened on a Tuesday evening. Emily was upstairs doing homework, oblivious to the storm brewing below. I'd waited long enough. I needed answers. "Claire," I said, holding up the bank statement. "What's going on here?" She froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. For a moment, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then, slowly, she set the fork down and sighed. "I was going to tell you," she began, avoiding my eyes. "Tell me what?" My voice was sharper than I intended. "The retirement fund." She hesitated, fidgeting with her napkin. "I invested it in a hotel in Tuscany." My jaw dropped. "You did what?" "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," she exclaimed, suddenly animated. "Can't you see? This is our chance to do something extraordinary, to leave a legacy." "A legacy?" I snapped. "We've worked decades for that money, Claire. It was supposed to secure our future, not disappear into some pipe dream." Her face hardened. "Maybe if you weren't so stuck in your boring little world, you'd understand." That stung, more than I cared to admit. After that night, things only got worse. Every conversation turned into an argument. Claire accused me of being controlling, of crushing her spirit. I accused her of being reckless, of throwing away everything we'd worked for. "You're such a hypocrite," she shot back during one particularly heated exchange. "You talk about security, but all you care about is control. You can't stand the idea that I might actually succeed without you. That's not true." I shouted, though deep down, I wondered if she was right. Emily must have heard us yelling, because she came downstairs, tears streaming down her face. "Stop it," she cried. "Both of you. Do you even realize how much this is hurting me?" Her words hit like a punch to the gut. We fell silent, guilt washing over us. For a brief moment, we managed to put aside our anger for her sake. But the damage was done. Desperate for advice, I called Lucas, my best friend since college. He's a divorce lawyer now, sharp-tongued and brutally honest. When I told him what happened, he let out a low whistle. "Wow," he said, "this is messy. Does she realize how much trouble she's in?" "I don't think so," I admitted. "She keeps talking about this hotel like it's some magical solution. But I'm starting to wonder if it even exists." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You think she got scammed?" "I don't know," I muttered. but I need to find out. He leaned forward, his expression serious. Listen, Nate, if she really emptied your retirement fund without your consent, that's ground for divorce. But are you ready for that? I hesitated. Divorce? The word felt foreign, impossible. Yet the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Something had to change. Lucas didn't waste any time. Within days, he had a private investigator on the case. Someone discreet but thorough. Meanwhile, I tried to keep things normal at home, though normal felt like a distant memory. Claire acted like nothing was wrong, breezing through the house with her usual confidence. It infuriated me. How could she be so calm when our lives were unraveling? One evening, as I sat in my study poring over documents related to Claire's investment, Emily knocked softly on the door. "Hey, Dad," she said, hovering awkwardly. "Can we talk?" I gestured for her to sit. She looked so much older than her 16 years, her eyes heavy with worry. "I overheard you and Mom fighting," she confessed. "Is it true? Did she really take all the money?" I hesitated, unsure how much to tell her. "It's complicated, sweetheart. But yes, your mom made a decision that, well, let's just say it wasn't the best choice." She frowned. "Are you guys getting divorced?" The question hit me like a freight train. "No," I said quickly, maybe too quickly. "At least, not yet. We're working on it." Her voice trembled. "Promise me one thing, okay? Don't make decisions based on me. I don't want to be the reason you stay together if you're unhappy." Her maturity caught me off guard. I hugged her tightly, promising nothing except that I loved her. The PI's report arrived sooner than I expected. As I flipped through the pages, my stomach sank. Claire's business partner, Lorenzo, a suave Italian entrepreneur with slick back hair and a Rolex fetish, had a shady past. Multiple failed ventures, lawsuits, and whispers of fraud followed him wherever he went. But what shocked me most was the email trail. Claire hadn't just handed over the money blindly. She'd ignored warnings from Vanessa, who'd flagged Lorenzo as suspicious months ago. Why would she do that? Out of blind trust? Or something else entirely? Determined to get answers, I booked a flight to Tuscany under the guise of supporting Claire's dream. If nothing else, I needed to see this so-called hotel project for myself. Tuscany was every bit as beautiful as Claire described. Rolling hills dotted with vineyards, golden sunlight spilling over cobblestone streets. But the idyllic scenery did little to ease my growing unease. Claire greeted me at the villa where she'd been staying, looking radiant in a flowing sundress. For a moment, I almost forgot why I was there. Almost. "This place is incredible, isn't it?" she gushed, leading me inside. "Just wait until you meet Lorenzo. He's amazing." Lorenzo turned out to be exactly as sleazy as I'd imagined. Charismatic, yes, but with an oily charm that set my teeth on edge. Over dinner, he waxed poetic about his vision for the hotel, dropping names and weaving grandiose promises. Claire hung on his every word, her face glowing with admiration. Watching them interact made my blood boil. Was she really that naive, or was there something more between them? Either way, I knew I had to tread carefully. The next morning, I insisted on visiting the construction site. Claire protested, claiming it wasn't ready for visitors, but I wouldn't take no for an answer. What I found, or rather, didn't find, confirmed my worst fears. The hotel was little more than a patch of barren land surrounded by half-built structures. Workers milled about aimlessly, and equipment lay abandoned. It was clear this project was far from completion, if it ever would be. When I confronted Claire later, she brushed it off. "These things take time, Nathan. You can't expect perfection overnight. And what happens when the money runs out?" I shot back. "What then?" Her silence spoke volumes. That night, unable to sleep, I called Lucas. "I need proof," I told him. "Something concrete to show Claire what she's gotten herself into." He promised to dig deeper. Little did I know, his findings would change everything. Lucas delivered the final piece of the puzzle. Bank records showing large sums of money funneled from Claire's account to offshore accounts linked to Lorenzo. It was undeniable now. He'd played her for a fool. Armed with the evidence, I cornered Claire in the villa's garden. She looked startled when I showed her the documents. You trusted him, I said, my voice shaking with anger. You gave him everything and he betrayed you. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought... She trailed off, unable to finish. You thought wrong. I snapped. And because of your recklessness, we've lost everything. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse in her expression. I'm sorry, Nathan. I truly am. But sorry wasn't enough. Not anymore. The air between us was heavy with unspoken words as Claire sat on the edge of a stone bench in the garden, her hands trembling. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of her choices had finally caught up to her. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered, staring at the ground. I don't know what I thought. You thought Lorenzo would make your dreams come true, I said bitterly. But instead, he made you his mark. She flinched but didn't argue. For once, she couldn't defend herself. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. Here's the deal, Claire. If you want to fix this, if you want even a chance at redemption, you're going to help me get our money back. We'll expose Lorenzo together, and maybe, just maybe, we can salvage something from this mess. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. And if I don't, then I go public. I said coldly, with everything, your role in this, the emails, the transfers, everything. Her face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me? I shot back. For a long moment, she just stared at me, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded, defeated. Okay, fine. I'll do it. Over the next few days, Claire played her part perfectly, or so it seemed. She arranged meetings with Lorenzo under the guise of discussing project updates, while I lurked in the background, gathering evidence. It wasn't easy. Every interaction with him left a bad taste in my mouth. His charm was as fake as his promises, and watching Claire fall for it again, even if only temporarily, made my blood boil. One afternoon, as we reviewed blueprints in a makeshift office, Lorenzo leaned back in his chair, smirking. You know, Nathan, your wife has incredible vision. Most people wouldn't have dared to invest in something like this. Yeah, I replied dryly. Vision gets you far, until reality catches up. Claire shot me a warning glance, but I ignored it. I wasn't here to play nice. Later that night, back at the villa, Claire confronted me. You're supposed to be helping, not antagonizing him. I'm doing exactly what needs to be done. I shot back. Or would you rather let him walk away scot-free? She bit her lip, clearly torn. For all her bravado, she knew I was right. Back home, unbeknownst to either of us, Emily had been quietly piecing things together. Through snippets of phone calls and hushed conversations, she'd figure out more than we realized. When Lucas visited one evening to check on her, she surprised him by saying, I know Mom messed up, but Dad's being kind of harsh too, isn't he? Lucas chuckled. That's merit for you. Even when it's falling apart, it's complicated. But why does it feel like they're forgetting about me? She asked softly. They're not, Lucas assured her. They're just trying to survive. But don't worry, they'll figure it out. And until then, you've got me. Emily smiled faintly. Thanks, Uncle Lucas. What neither of them knew was that Emily had already started planning her own way to bring the family back together. It happened during a tense meeting with Lorenzo. Claire, armed with hidden recording devices provided by Lucas, pressed him about the missing funds. At first, he laughed it off, brushing her questions aside with practiced ease. But as she pushed harder, citing specific transactions, his demeanor shifted. Where did you get these numbers? He demanded, his voice sharp. That doesn't matter, Claire replied, her tone steady despite the fear in her eyes. What matters is that you explain them. Lorenzo stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. This conversation is over. Before he could leave, I stepped into the room, blocking his path. Not so fast. His gaze flickered between us, panic evident in his expression. You set me up, he spat, glaring at Claire. No, I corrected him. You set yourself up. Now, here's the deal. You return the money, or we hand everything over to the authorities. Your choice. He hesitated, calculating his options. In the end, greed won out. He agreed to cooperate, though not without threats of retaliation. with the recovered funds secured, or at least partially. Claire and I returned home, both exhausted and changed. The tension between us remained palpable, but there was also a strange sense of relief. One evening, as we sat in silence in the living room, Emily walked in holding an envelope. "What's this?" I asked, taking it from her. "It's for both of you," she said simply. Inside were sketches, drawings of our family, each member depicted with care and detail. Beneath them was a note: "No matter what happens, we're still a team. Love, Emily." Tears welled in Claire's eyes as she looked at the drawings. "She's amazing," she murmured. "Yes," I agreed. "She is." In that moment, I realized something important. Our family might never be the same, but perhaps that wasn't such a bad thing. Sometimes, breaking apart is a first step toward building something stronger. The house was quiet the next morning, save for the sound of Emily humming softly in the kitchen as she made breakfast. Claire and I exchanged uneasy glances across the table, neither of us sure how to broach what needed to be said. Finally, I cleared my throat. "Emily, we need to talk." She turned to face us, her expression guarded but curious. "About what?" "About everything." I began, struggling to find the right words. "Your mom and I have been through a lot lately, and while we're trying to fix some of the damage, it's become clear that things between us aren't the same." Claire picked up where I left off, her voice trembling slightly. "We care about each other, Em, but sometimes love isn't enough to keep two people together. We've grown apart, and pretending otherwise wouldn't be fair to either of us or to you." Emily's eyes widened. "Are you saying—" "I'm filing for divorce," I said gently but firmly. "But I want you to know that this doesn't mean we're giving up on our family. It just means we're doing things differently from now on." To my surprise, Emily didn't cry or lash out. Instead, she nodded slowly, as if she'd already accepted this outcome. "Okay," she said quietly. "Just promise me one thing." "Anything," Claire replied, reaching for her hand. "That you'll still be parents. Together, even if you're not together. Her request hit me like a punch to the gut. "We promise," I said, swallowing hard. "Divorce is messy, no matter how amicable you try to make it." Papers were signed, assets divided, and arrangements made for custody schedules. Claire moved into a modest apartment downtown, while I stayed in the house with Emily during the week. At first, it felt strange, lonely, even. The silence in the evenings was deafening, a constant reminder of what we'd lost. But over time, I started adapting. I threw myself into work, designing projects that challenged me creatively. And then there was Margaret, a kind-hearted high school art teacher who volunteered at Emily's school. She had a way of making life feel lighter, simpler. Claire, too, seemed to be finding her footing. She took odd jobs here and there, eventually landing freelance design gigs that allowed her to travel. Her Instagram feed became a mosaic of sunsets, cafe lattes, and half-finished sketches. Part of me wondered if she was happier now than she'd ever been with me. Still, there were moments when old wounds flared up, like when Emily asked why Claire hadn't shown up to her piano recital, or when I found myself staring at wedding photos tucked away in a drawer. Divorce may have been the right decision, but it didn't erase the memories or the pain. One rainy afternoon, Claire showed up unannounced at the house. She looked different somehow, softer, more grounded. "I brought soup," she said, holding up a steaming container. "Thought you could use it." I hesitated before letting her inside. "Thanks. That's nice of you." We sat in the kitchen, sipping broth and making small talk about Emily's latest accomplishments. For once, there was no tension between us, no lingering resentment, just two people sharing space, however awkwardly. "I've been thinking," Claire said after a long pause, "about everything, about how selfish I was, how reckless. You were chasing a dream," I said carefully, "even if it wasn't realistic. But it cost us too much," she admitted. "And I'll never forgive myself for that." Her honesty caught me off guard. "You don't have to carry all the blame, Claire. I could have listened more, supported you better. Maybe none of this would have happened if I had." She smiled faintly. Maybe, or maybe we were just doomed from the start. Neither of us said anything after that, but the air felt lighter somehow, as if years of bitterness had finally begun to lift. A few weeks later, Claire received an envelope in the mail. Inside were legal documents detailing a trust fund I'd secretly set up for Emily using part of the recovered funds. The letter accompanied explained everything. Dear Claire, this isn't about forgiveness or redemption. It's about ensuring Emily has a safety net, no matter what happens to us. Half of the money we got back is hers now, and always will be. Please don't fight me on this. It's the least I can do. Nathan. When Claire called me that evening, her voice was thick with emotion. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted it to be a surprise. I replied, for both of you. She let out a shaky laugh. You're impossible, you know that? Yeah, I said, smiling despite myself. But so are you. For the first time in months, I heard genuine gratitude in her voice. Thank you, Nathan. Really. You're welcome, I said simply. Time passed, and life continued its slow march forward. Emily thrived in ways neither Claire nor I could have predicted. Her artwork gained recognition, earning her a spot in a prestigious summer program in New York City. By senior year, she was accepted into a top-tier art school, thanks in part to scholarships, but also because of the trust fund I'd established. On the night of her high school graduation, Claire and I stood side by side, watching proudly as Emily walked across the stage to receive her diploma. When she spotted us in the audience, she waved enthusiastically, her smile lighting up the room. Later, during the reception, Emily pulled us aside. I just wanted to say thank you, she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. For everything. Even when things got hard, you never stopped being my parents. And that means the world to me. Claire reached for my hand without thinking, squeezing it tightly. In that moment, I realized something important. Some bonds aren't broken, they're transformed. The gallery opening was held on a crisp autumn evening, the kind where the air smells faintly of fallen leaves and possibility. Emily's artwork lined the walls, vivid, emotional pieces that told stories of resilience, love, and second chances. Each canvas seemed to pulse with life, a reflection of her journey over the past few years. Claire and I arrived separately, but ended up standing next to each other as we admired one of Emily's standout pieces, a triptych titled Fractured Roots. The first panel depicted a tree split down the middle, its branches reaching desperately toward each other. The second showed new growth sprouting from the broken trunk. The third was a fully restored tree, stronger and more vibrant than before. It's beautiful, Claire murmured, her voice tinged with awe. It's her, I replied simply. All of her. Emily spotted us from across the room and hurried over, beaming. What do you think? I think you're going to change the world, Claire said, pulling her into a tight hug. When she turned to me, I nodded in agreement. You already have. For the first time in years, the three of us stood together, not as fractured fragments of a once whole family, but as individuals bound by shared history and hope for the future. After the gallery emptied and Emily headed home with friends, Claire lingered behind, helping me gather coats and fold chairs. As we worked, she glanced at me hesitantly. There's something I need to tell you, she said, her tone unusually serious. I froze, bracing myself for whatever came next. When I found out about the trust fund, I didn't know what to say. At first, I was angry that you'd done something so generous without telling me. But then, she trailed off, shaking her head. Then what? I prompted gently. Then I realized it wasn't just about Emily. It was about forgiveness, about letting go of all the bitterness and starting fresh. You gave me that gift, even if you didn't mean to. Her words caught me off guard. Claire, No, let me finish, she interrupted softly. I've been thinking a lot lately. About us. About everything we've been through. And I realized something important. I don't want to spend the rest of my life regretting the choices I made, or resenting you for holding me accountable. So I'm letting it go. All of it. Her honesty left me speechless. For years, I carried the weight of our failed marriage like a stone around my neck. But hearing her say those words felt like setting it down for good. In the weeks that followed, Claire and I began rebuilding. Not our marriage, but our friendship. We started meeting for coffee every few weeks, talking about everything from Emily's latest adventures to our own dreams for the future. Slowly, the sharp edges of our past softened, replaced by a quiet understanding. Margaret noticed a change in me almost immediately. "You seem lighter," she remarked one evening as we strolled through the park. "I feel lighter," I admitted, "like I've finally put some ghosts to rest." She smiled knowingly. That's the thing about forgiveness. It doesn't erase the past, but it makes room for the present. Meanwhile, Claire threw herself into her work, traveling to Europe for design projects and reconnecting with old passions she'd long abandoned. When she returned from a trip to Paris, she brought me a small sketchbook filled with drawings inspired by her travels. "For you," she said, handing it over with a shy smile. A reminder that even broken things can inspire beauty. I flipped through the pages, marveling at the intricate details and vibrant colors. In that moment, I realized how far we'd come, not just as exes, but as people. Years later, as I sat in the audience at Emily's first major art exhibition in New York City, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we'd all come. Her career had skyrocketed since graduation, earning her accolades and opportunities beyond anything we could have imagined. During her speech, she singled out Claire and me, her voice trembling with emotion. "My parents taught me the most important lessons of my life," she said, smiling warmly at us. "They taught me that love isn't always perfect, and that's okay. Sometimes it breaks. Sometimes it bends. But even in its imperfections, it leaves a mark, a legacy. And for that, I'll always be grateful." As applause erupted around me, I glanced at Claire, seated a few rows away. She caught my eye and nodded, a silent acknowledgement of all we'd endured and overcome together. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Emily pulled us aside for a private moment. "Thank you," she said simply, "for being my parents, even when it was hard." "We wouldn't trade it for anything," Claire replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Neither would I." As we walked out into the cool night air, I realized something profound. Life is messy, unpredictable, and often painful. But within its chaos lies grace, the chance to grow, to heal, and to rediscover what truly matters. And for that, I'll always be thankful.